Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the amazing Matt Vettese. Matt, how you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Dude, this is such an honor. Before we talk about the reason you're here, Matt, I want the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. Matt has spent over a decade working as a radio host in markets all across Canada, and continues to host his radio show, but he also is a content creator focused on punk and emo music. Now, for those of you who know me, you know that's right up my alley. And finding out about him through Instagram, I saw one video and immediately reached out to him like, bro, I have to have the opportunity to work with you. What gave you the inspiration to start making the punk and emo related content that you do, especially through like Instagram?
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna get you to write my next bio because that was great. And to answer your question, I mean, I grew up the weird kid that listened to emo and punk and hardcore and all these different sort of variations of punk music. So I was one of the weird kids in the high school that kind of had that small group of friends, and I had the weird hair and colorful hair, and that was just the person that I was, right? And that was such integral part of growing up for me.
Mhm.
Even still to this day, it's one of those things where that was the defining point of growing up that sort of defined who I was. And like I never lost it, right? So doing these videos helps me relive some of those times that go figure, funny enough, I felt like at the time were like awful days, right? And now you look back on them in the past with such fond memories because
Mhm.
hindsight's always 2020 and retrospect is sort of, you look at things through rose tinted glasses. But yeah, I get to relive some of those times, those amazing times doing these videos. And I find that a lot of the times when I'm doing these videos, I'm doing them because they make me laugh, and seeing so
Mhm.
many other people laughing at my content, hey, that just brings me so much joy that I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just doing this for fun to relive some of these fond moments of my life, and other people are relating to it and reacting to it. I might as well just keep on doing it then because this is a blast. So I'm
Right.
surprised by how many people have liked them over the last little bit.
Well, and it's amazing because what you were saying, like especially I feel like in the punk, hardcore, I hate the word screamo, but screamo, emo communities, like the music that we all listen to as teens really did stick with us to today, and if I'm driving in the car and I hear someone listening to Island by the Starting Line, I'm going to look right over at them and start singing along with them and just have a good time. And, when you're doing those type of things and you grew up that way, you really do look for that connection with people because I was the same way. Like I was the weird kid in high school. So when you have all these other people out there now, we have this amazing social networking where we can connect with these people that went through the same things as us. We could see the jokes that you make and we laugh because we feel the same way,
And I
and if
think that's the big thing too, is the fact that for all of our lives, especially in those formative teen years, we were looked at as the outcasts or the weird kids because we listened to Hawthorne Heights or My Chemical Romance. And it's not like these were crazy underground bands, but it was still like an alternative to what was going on in uh, the other mainstream subcultures, that when someone else liked the same music as us or the same movies or TV shows, we were like, there are other people that I can relate to
right.
that like this stuff, right? I'm not weird. Like, if you're listening to this song too, sweet. Like, let's be friends.
I mean, I got a single silver bullet shot right through my heart, and and it's amazing because something else I've talked about with a lot of other people that grew up like this, like how awesome was it when you would go to a show and you would get like a compilation CD and then you would find one of your new favorite bands. Like it's funny, you just brought up Hawthorne Heights. I got a Victory Records sampler at a show and Silver Bullet by Hawthorne Heights was on it. And I was like, this band is fucking incredible. And then we started listening to Hawthorne Heights, and like that's how I found out about Silverstein. I got a Silverstein tattoo on my arm. So the way of discovering music back then was like really like a crapshoot. hey, you want to buy this $5 sampler and see what you like on it? Yeah, sure, give it to me. So like those are memories that I think back on now, and I'm like, wow, I was so lucky to be able to have those experiences, going to shows, meeting people, finding out about new music. And that's still today at 37 a feeling when I hear a new band that I really dig, like that's still a feeling that is just super amazing.
It's actually crazy how we discovered music back in the day. Like I remember finding Metallica at like 11 or 12 years old, and that was one of the first heavy bands that I listened to before I really discovered punk music.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I discovered that was because someone in school was talking about Metallica, and I'm like, oh, I kind of wanted to be in on that conversation. It sounded cool. I liked AC/DC. I knew I liked that because of my dad. And people were talking about like rock music and Metallica. So I'm like, okay, I went to the store and I found Metallica, and the only CD that they had at the time was the Black Album. So I'm like, grabbed it, threw it into my Walkman, threw it on, and the opening notes, it just immediately, I was like mind blown, right? And it opened up a door for me. And then it kind of went from there. Like there was just a gateway, right? From
Yeah.
Metallica. And then I like told my uncle, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm listening to Metallica. And my uncle is one of my uncles isn't much older than me. He's much younger than my mother. So I kind of grew up with him as like an older brother. And he's like, well, here, like Nirvana and Tool, and starts throwing all his music at me. And then he threw The Used at me. And I was like, who is this? Right. And it was just sort of like it's just, there's a pipeline. There really is a pipeline to get you
Yeah.
into what you're into. And for me, it was Metallica into Nirvana into The Used, and at some point there was the Sex Pistols in there, and just kind of like going through that discovery of someone hands you a mix CD with a bunch of different bands on it, and you just end up listening to everything, right? And it's like I don't have a specific genre that I love. I love it all. It's just I fit
Mm-hmm.
in with the emo kids, and that was a big part of it, was the emo and the punk and all of that. But even when I do my videos and I say things like, oh, elder emo, I feel like an elder emo is the person that grew up in that time, in that sort of era of emo music. But realistically, the elder emos weren't just listening to emo, they were listening to punk and
Right.
hardcore and grunge and everything, right? So that's just for everyone in my comments saying that's not emo whenever I say something's elder emo. I'm not saying the song is elder emo. I'm saying we are, okay?
Yes, yes, we are the elder emo ones here. And like I gotta pimp it a little bit, man, because if you guys aren't, I have Matt's social media links down in the description. So make sure you're following him. I had a friend send me one of his videos on Instagram, and I busted up laughing at work. And immediately, like 2 days later, I hit him up, like, bro, it would be an honor to have you on and talk to you. I had to do a little arm twisting, and you'll find out why here in a second. But and it's one of those things where it really became more, and I don't mean this in a negative way or a condescending way even, but when you were into those genres of music, it became almost like you said, a lifestyle, an obsession. Like that was our lives. I remember laying in bed every night, and whatever record I was listening to in my headphones, I was just sitting there reading along with the lyrics, just so I could learn every single lyric to every single song and know exactly what words they were saying on every single song. And like that and horror movies and baseball have always been my life. Like that was what I grew up with. That's what I loved. And still to this day, like sometimes I'll just grab one of my vinyls, throw them on, and just, while I'm editing, and I'm just listening. I always listen to music when I edit. Every
Mm-hmm.
single episode I do, I listen to some type of record while I'm editing. So it still is that huge obsession in my life.
I do that when I'm scheduling music for the radio station. I'll throw on a record, and or if I'm prepping my show, I'll just kind of go through all of my websites and figure out what I want to talk about that day, and then schedule the music for the next day. And I've got a record on in the background, or Spotify's on, or something's on. But just it really is, like you said, it's a lifestyle, and it just kind of became a large part of our identity, right?
Right. It really did. Like I mean, we were the band t-shirts we wore, you know?
Yeah.
Like every article of clothing I had from the age of 13 to 22 was a band t-shirt in some way or another.
Dude, I remember going to my very first concert. It was Metallica. I was like 12 years old. Like I said, I was obsessed with them when I was like 11, 12. And my uncle took me to the Metallica concert. It was on their St. Anger tour, and I bought this T-shirt there, like a Matt at the World T-shirt. I think I have a little picture of little 12-year-old Matt, like wearing the T-shirt, and I remember being so excited the next day going to school and wearing that T-shirt, and some kid picked a fight with me that day, and I don't even remember why, as kids, and I will admit I was getting my ass kicked. I was, on the floor, and I think the only thing that I could do to get this kid off of me was I just grabbed his hair. And so I'm kind of like grabbing his hair and trying to pull him off of me until a teacher came to break it up. They brought us to the principal's office, and I remember being so mad because kid's hair was so greasy. And I remember all of his hair kind of got all over my shirt, and I'm in the principal's office, and the principal's talking about how serious it was that we fought, and just calling our parents, and we're going to be in so much trouble. And I'm just sitting there in the office, like picking little hairs off of my shirt. She's like, "Are you taking this seriously?" And I'm like, "No, I'm mad. Look at all his hair on my new Metallica shirt."
Oh my god, dude, that's so dope. Like, that's so funny. Like, it's always, that was a treasure. You couldn't go to your local stores and buy that Metallica shirt.
No.
Especially when you got the tour shirts, like those were fucking gold, man. Like those were gold that you put on your body. So, man, I gotta stress this enough, guys. You gotta make sure you're checking Matt out on social media. And I got those links down in the description. Whether you're an elder emo, a new emo, or you don't give a shit at all, I promise you're still gonna laugh at his content. And if you watch a video and you don't like it, try again. So I
no
do
refunds.
want to say before we get started here, one last thing I want to say. We were talking about how important the music was to us. It's always been an integral thing for all of us. And has it kind of always been like a gateway for you to cope with maybe anxieties or stresses or stuff like that? Have you always turned to music for that type of help, that type of therapy, so to speak?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I think the thing is, too, is back then we didn't even realize it, or a lot of us didn't realize it. For me, that was definitely the case. Like, I think I was dealing with a lot, and I just kind of sort of thought that was normal, or I wasn't normal. It was sort of one of the two, but I never really thought like, oh, this could be some anxious feelings, or, I might be depressed or something, right? But it was just sort of like I would have those negative feelings. I didn't know what to do with them, and so what did I do? I put on my Walkman or my iPod, depending on the age or year, and just kind of like anything that was loud and screaming and angry, and that helped a lot. Or I would go into my room and pick up my guitar and just, drop D and just like, play some breakdowns or something like that. And yeah, that was I think my main coping mechanism, if you don't include smoking and drinking at a young age. But I don't condone that or recommend that to anyone who might be underage, that might be thinking about doing that, because I think smoking is probably one of my bigger regrets, and that was the toughest thing ever to kick. So
yeah. Well, and I'll say, if it comes down to smoking or drinking, just lock yourself in a room with the places you've come to fear the most. I promise you'll feel better in the morning. And also, Matt, I gotta say, thank you so much for posting your preview of the new Blink-182 song. It was amazing to be able to check that out. So,
that album's going to be so good, man. And starting off with that song I teased, I think it's going to be their next single. There's going to be One More Time, and then there's going to be that one. That one's definitely their next single after One More Time.
Make sure you guys are checking it out. I promise, again, you won't regret it. So we know what you're doing now, Matt, and we kind of know how we both grew up here. But here for a second, I want to go to the dark side and talk about something. This is going to be such a fun conversation for me. I want to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Matt, the first horror movie that you watched was?
It was the remake of Amityville Horror.
Now, I got to stress this. Matt is not what you would call a huge horror fan. So when he came to me, he was like, look, I might not be the best fit, and this is why. I was like, that's why you're the perfect fit. Because you can show that people can watch their first horror movie and be like, no, I'm fucking good on this. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
Yeah, and I think that's probably why you were saying you had to twist my arm. I was always willing to come on, but I just wanted to be very upfront. And I
Right.
am very upfront with absolutely everybody. Anytime there's some new big blockbuster horror movie and they're like, hey guys, want to go to the movie? Absolutely not. I am a chicken. And I am the first person to admit it because back when I was about 12, 13 years old and I was afraid to admit it because I didn't want to get made fun of by my friends. Instead, I ended up not sleeping for a week, and I don't like doing that anymore. So I'm a chicken. I'm going to own it, and that's that. So if you want someone to come here and gush about these movies, it's not going to be me. I probably hate all of your favorite movies. I hate every single one of them.
And that's so incredible to me. Like I said, I love that because I just like, the punk kids, the metal kids, I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know why this is like this for you. And I even wore my Amityville shirt for you. Catch them and kill them. I got it right here for you. So
I don't want to see it. I'm not looking.
so we know you were young, and I'm assuming because you said, you didn't want to look like a wuss. The first time you watched it, did you watch it with a group of friends?
Yeah, we went. I think there's about four of us, and we went to the movie theater to see it. I didn't want to be left out, so I was like, "All right, I'm a big boy. I could do this. 12." And so we go to the movie theater, and the good thing is I know my friends were scared based on the way that they were acting. So I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in how freaked out I am. But I must have watched half of the movie like this. Like, with a bag of popcorn in front of my face. I don't have a bag of popcorn, but just kind of,
Right.
and then after that movie, I don't think I was able to sleep for a week. I was terrified of the time 3:15 because I think that was the time that he went crazy. Um, it was not a good time. I think a week or two later, me and all those friends that went to go see the movie that were all terrified of it, we went to Blockbuster and we rented the original. We watched this and we're like, oh, this is shit. This isn't even scary. Like the remake has this little creepy ghost girl CGI thing in it. And we were like, and then in the original movie, people were like, oh, this was so scary for its time. And it was just like the rocking chair rocking. Like, what's scary about this? They didn't even have the ghost girl in it.
Which it does, like the practical effects throughout the remake, they do have that sprinkle of CGI, but the little ghost girl, like when she puts the finger in her head, like fuck that. That's still a super scary
I've
moment.
repressed so much of this movie. It's been so long. I don't remember a finger in the head, and I don't want to remember. So I'm just letting you know, a lot of this movie has been repressed for me.
Right. Well, I got to bring out a little bit here. Do you remember which scene it was that really affected you the most?
Yeah, the scene that really fucked me up was when the priest was talking to the dad or whatever, and he goes, "Yeah, I knew the previous family, and the girl that lived there before, she was buried with that teddy bear or whatever."
Jody DeFeo was buried with that dog.
And I remember being like, goosebumps. Because I was like, it was buried with her. How did it leave the coffin? What happened? How is that even possible? So that part freaked me out. And I think that and 3:15 and him going crazy are probably the only things that I truly remember. I think I remember like the girl was on the roof and she was about to jump because I remember my friend next to me was like, fuck her, let her jump, stupid kid. And I remember being like 12, like, what the hell? Because then he got upset when the dog died. And I'm like, dude, you were just telling a little girl to jump off the roof and you didn't give a shit, but now you're all upset that the dog died. And I didn't have a dog as a kid growing up, so I didn't really understand it at that point. Now I'd probably be saying the same thing if I rewatched the movie. Because, like, you don't want the dog to die. You never want the dog to die. But I didn't get that at 12.
Right. And it's one of those things, especially in the moment, because you actually think there's a monster coming at him when he gets the dog. Like in his mind, he sees a monster and he ends up killing the dog. And another big thing about this movie on why it's so, effective, I feel like even today, is it's all inspired by true events. The DeFeo family was a real family that lived in a house in Amityville, New York. And that's
Don't
why.
tell me that. I forgot about that. You didn't need to say that.
truly is. And I've talked about this before. I feel like this is one of the best remakes of all time of a horror movie because it does what the original did, but it also makes it its own. And it's
Mhm.
very scary, a lot of super intimidating moments. Now, I know, like I said, I know you're not a huge horror movie fan. I know you don't like to watch them, but it's in my script, so I gotta ask, man. My little buddy Ghostface is here, Matt, and he does have a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Matt? If you had to choose a favorite horror movie, what would you choose?
Can I pick the scary movies?
Yeah, of course,
But
man. Those movies are awesome.
yeah, but not 3 because I got scared of 3. My friend laughs at me. He's like, dude, how did you get scared of scary movie? They're funny. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm terrified of like those creepy little monsters and shit. And in the third scary movie, they had the parody of The Ring. And oh
Oh
my
yeah.
God, the girl from The Ring scares the living hell out of me. And her coming out of the TV, that even just the parody version from when I watched it freaked me right the hell out. So yeah, I don't actually have a favorite scary movie. Um, Actually, does Cabin in the Woods count as a horror movie?
Yes. And I
Because
think that's what I've said repeatedly. I think that's one of the best horror movies made in the last 20 years.
I think I remember watching that one when I was a little bit older and I wasn't scared of it, but it was a really, real. I remember it was creepy, but I really enjoyed it. So I'd probably say that one. But like I said, I don't watch any horror movies. I'm a big believer that if I'm going to pay for my entertainment, I want to be able to laugh and have a good time and not have anxiety going to sleep that night.
Dude, I still, man, that part in Scary Movie 3 where she's like, Cindy, the TV's leaking
Yep.
right before the
Yep.
girl
No.
comes out.
No. No.
Oh,
I like
dude,
I'm telling you, dude, I am a fucking pussy.
I love it,
Um
man. Like, I told you this before, too, before we actually did the episode, but I had a buddy that watched A Nightmare on Elm Street and the part where the guy got hanged in the jail with the sheet. After that, my buddy would not sleep with sheets on his bed. Absolutely refused. He was like, "No, I will not sleep with sheets on my bed. That's not going to happen." So, I love how some people can watch that first horror movie and get that adrenaline like a roller coaster, and then they get that addiction. They're always chasing that dragon again. And then other people can watch it and be like, "Fuck that." No interest. I love that. I respect it. I think it's awesome. I love how we're all different. If
Give me a
everybody I talk
shitty
to,
Adam Sandler movie. I'll watch that over the best horror movie. I'll watch it, and I'm a fan of Adam Sandler. I will just admit though, he has some really good movies. He has some really bad movies. I will take the worst Adam Sandler movie over the greatest horror movie of all time.
that's awesome. I mean, personally, I disagree, but I love it, man. So, I did have an amazing time, Matt, talking to you about your first horror movie, your favorite horror movies. But real quick, before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question, and I think I know the answer, but again, it's in my script, so I got to ask. We're going to bounce back to the Amityville remake, and what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. All we're doing here, Matt, is ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Matt, what would your ranking of the Amityville horror be?
Oh, 0. I'm not a chicken. Yeah, definitely 6 out of 5. Fucked me up. I'm just being real. Like I said, I'm not exaggerating when I say I didn't sleep for a week, and I swear any single time, like I would just watch the clock until it hit 3:15, and then I would like wait 5 or 10 minutes. Like, is my dad gonna go crazy? And then when that didn't happen, like 4 o'clock in the morning, I think is usually when I fell asleep. Up by like 7 for an entire week. I got 3 hours of sleep.
Just to make sure dad didn't go crazy.
But like this is the way that I am with horror films. I don't like them. But the thing is, like, you can put me through a haunted house and I will laugh my entire way through it. But there's something about a scary movie that just I can't. They affect me way too much.
Well, I mean, to be 100% honest, I am the complete opposite. You give me every scary movie and I'm fine. You put me in a haunted house and I just get angry. I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of people jumping at me. I don't like it. Like
here's
I,
the
I
trick
had
with haunted houses though. You know that it's a person behind that costume and you know that they're going to play off your reaction, right? So with a movie, they're putting the craziest things onto that screen to get a reaction out of you, and then it'll affect you however you take it. But it's just some guy in a costume probably making $15 an hour behind it trying to get a reaction out of you. And if you don't give him a reaction, he's going to move on to the next person that's going to, right? So I loved going through all of those haunted houses and laughing at them. In my mind, I'm shitting my pants. But when they pop out at me, I'm like, ooh, I'm not scared. I'm not scared, you know? And then they're like, oh, okay, this guy's not scared. He's laughing at me. And they go to the person behind you, and the person's like, woo! And you know, then they continue to bug them. I had one buddy who went through there's a theme park near where I grew up called Canada's Wonderland, and around Halloween every year they put on, it used to be called Fear Fest, now it's called Haunt, and they turned the entire basically like they're like Disney World into a giant haunted house. It's like giant mazes in different parts of the theme park. And we would go with a group of friends. And one buddy was one of those guys that was like too cool for school and never afraid of anything. And he's there and he's scaring me and my girlfriend. And he's, you know, while we're nervously going through, he's the one that's jumping out and grabbing us and going, ha, and making us jump. But he was terrified of clowns. So, and we all knew this. So we just waited until we got to the clown maze, didn't tell him it was the clown maze. We go in there, we see his face, and he's just like he just goes pale, right? And so I'm walking up to all the clowns, and all of a sudden I'm not scared anymore because I'm walking up to all the clowns, and I'm like, hey, you see that guy over there? This is his name. He's terrified of clowns, and they're all walking up to him going, why so serious? And like saying his name to him and shit, and he was just freaking out. And like, I got my revenge because they can see the reaction out of you. And they play off of that reaction. Whereas the movie, it's not like I can laugh at the movie and it's going to get any less scary.
Touche. We are at the end of the third act now, guys. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, I want to remind you for the third time, please go and follow Matt on social media. You are not going to regret it. I promise you, you are going to laugh. You may get a little angry at times because you get excited for something that doesn't happen, but it's all worth it because he is the man. So, Matt, please don't go anywhere, man. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really does help the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. All our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.